I stood there, paralyzed, watching my roommate's face turn a shade of blue I didn't think was humanly possible, while the rest of our friends were still laughing, holding their phones up to record what they thought was the ultimate viral prank. My heart wasn't just racing. It was hammering against my ribs like it wanted to escape my chest because I realized, in that split second, that the funny little revenge plan we'd cooked up had just turned into a potential crime scene. I had the EpiPen in my hand, but for 3 seconds, 3 long, agonizing seconds, I hesitated, wondering if this was still part of the act or if I was about to watch someone die on our living room floor because of a stupid joke about a stolen sandwich. Was I wrong for letting the prank go that far? Or would you have pushed back sooner if your friends were peer pressuring you into teaching someone a lesson? I really need you to listen to this entire story because my life is currently in shambles. And I don't know if I'm the villain or the victim in this mess. It all started about 6 months ago when I moved into a 3-bedroom apartment with Mark and Sarah. Mark was an old friend from college. A guy who always loved being the center of attention and lived for the bit, while Sarah was someone we found on a roommate finding app who seemed chill enough at first. We were all in our early 20s, working entry-level jobs, and trying to survive in an expensive city, so things were tight, and the kitchen became the primary battleground of our shared existence. Sarah had this habit, this incredibly frustrating daily habit, of borrowing things without asking. It started small, like a splash of milk here or a spoonful of peanut butter there, but by the 3rd month, she was eating full meals that Mark or I had prepped for our work shifts. Mark, being the high-energy, confrontational guy he is, started getting visibly annoyed, but Sarah would always laugh it off with this airy, dismissive tone, saying she'd replace it tomorrow, which she never did. One day, Mark came home after a 12-hour shift, starving and exhausted, only to find that the expensive Wagyu steak he'd bought to treat himself for his birthday was gone, replaced by a sticky note that just said "Oopsie, was hungry. XOXO." That was the breaking point. Mark didn't just get mad. He became obsessed with winning the roommate war. He started suggesting pranks to teach her a lesson, which started harmlessly enough, like putting salt in her sugar jar or hiding her left shoes before she had to go to work. I went along with it because honestly, the stolen food was hitting my wallet hard too, and it felt like harmless fun at the time. To give you some more context, Mark wasn't just a prankster. He was a failing influencer. He had this YouTube channel with about 5,000 subscribers, and he was desperate for a breakout hit. He started seeing Sarah's theft not as a roommate problem, but as content. He would spend hours in his room, not looking for a better job, but researching extreme revenge pranks. He started talking about psychological warfare, saying things like, "If she wants to live like a predator, she has to deal with the traps. I should have seen the red flags. I should have noticed how he stopped caring about the money she owed us, and started caring only about the lighting in the kitchen for his hidden cameras." We spent weeks in this weird, heightened state of tension. I remember one night Sarah came home and found her entire bed had been moved into the communal bathroom. She laughed it off, but I could see her eyes getting harder, colder. She started retaliating by accidentally spilling red wine on Mark's white sneakers or forgetting to lock the front door at 3 a.m. It wasn't a home anymore, it was a battleground. Every morning, I would wake up and check my milk just to see if the war had escalated. The atmosphere was suffocating. My girlfriend at the time told me I should just move out, that Mark was becoming unhinged and Sarah was clearly toxic, but I felt loyal to Mark. We had history. I didn't want to leave him hanging with the rent. Plus, there was this sick part of me that wanted to see Sarah finally get a taste of her own medicine. She was so smug about it. She would eat my meal prep chicken right in front of me while scrolling through her phone, not even looking up when I told her I'd worked an extra shift just to afford that groceries. It makes you do crazy things when you feel disrespected in your own home. Mark started buying professional-grade equipment. He bought these tiny pinhole cameras that he installed in the smoke detectors and the back of the pantry. He was obsessed. He would sit in the dark with his headphones on, watching her on his monitor, waiting for her to slip up. He'd whisper things like, "Go on, take it, make my day." It was creepy looking back at it. He was treating Sarah like a lab rat. Then he found the death drop extract. He showed it to me on his phone, a tiny bottle with a skull and crossbones on it. He told me it was the hottest thing on the market, used for those one-chip challenges. He said, "Imagine her face when she thinks she's getting a sweet treat and her mouth turns into a volcano. It'll be the best video I've ever made." I laughed. I actually laughed and told him to go for it. I didn't think about the logistics. I didn't think about the fact that Sarah had mentioned her allergy during our very first roommate dinner 6 months prior. I just thought about the look of shock on her face. Mark spent the entire afternoon of that Tuesday baking. He was actually quite a good cook, which made it even more deceptive. He made these beautiful, artisan-style donuts with a shimmering glaze and colorful sprinkles. They looked like something out of a high-end bakery. But inside 3 of them, he had injected a massive dose of that extract. He even wore gloves and a mask while doing it, joking that he didn't want to blind himself. The irony is so thick it makes me sick to my stomach now. We set the box on the middle shelf of the fridge, right where she always looked first. We even put a little note on it that said "Property of Mark, do not touch," knowing that for Sarah, that was basically an invitation. We went back to his room, turned off the lights, and watched the monitor. We waited for 2 hours. Every time we heard the front door, our hearts jumped. We were like kids on Christmas morning, but instead of presents, we were waiting for someone's pain. When Sarah finally walked in, she looked exhausted. She'd had a long day at her retail job. She walked straight to the fridge, her shoulders slumped. She saw the box. She read the note. She actually rolled her eyes and scoffed, whispering, "As if," before grabbing a donut. She took a huge, hungry bite, the kind of bite you take when you haven't eaten all day. Mark was leaning into the screen, his face inches from the pixels, whispering, "Yes, yes, eat it all." So that's the situation I was in. And I had to make a choice between stopping the madness or seeing it through. Before I tell you what happened next and how the police ended up at our door, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have stopped the prank right there? Or would you have let the thief get what was coming to her? The reaction was almost instantaneous. Sarah didn't even have time to swallow before her eyes went wide. She tried to spit it out, but the extract was oily and coated her entire mouth and throat. She started coughing, a deep, hacking sound that echoed through the thin walls of our apartment. Mark was doubling over with laughter, hitting his desk. "Look at her. Look at her face," he screamed. But then the coughing stopped, replaced by a terrifying wheezing sound. She reached for the sink, trying to splash water into her mouth, but her movements were jerky and uncoordinated. She collapsed against the counter, sliding down to the floor. Her face wasn't just red from the heat, it was swelling. Her lips were turning purple. That's when it hit me. The death drop. Extract used peanut oil as a stabilizer. I remembered the conversation from months ago, Sarah talking about how she had to carry an EpiPen everywhere, because even a trace of peanuts could kill her. I screamed at Mark to stop laughing. I told him she was having an allergic reaction. He didn't believe me at first. He thought she was playing it up for the camera. I had to shove him out of the way to get to the kitchen. When I got to her, she was clawing at her throat, making these horrific, wet gargling noises. I've never been so scared in my life. I ran to the hallway, dumped her purse out on the floor, and found the EpiPen. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped it. I ran back and saw Mark standing in the doorway, his phone out, still recording. He wasn't helping. He was documenting his own downfall. I injected her, and for a second, nothing happened. I thought I was too late. I thought I had just watched my roommate die because of a donut. Finally, her chest heaved, and she took a ragged, desperate breath. The paramedics were there soon after. One of them looked at the donut box, and then at us with a look of pure disgust. "What did you put in these?" he asked. Mark tried to lie, saying it was just a spicy challenge, but the paramedics weren't stupid. They saw the cameras. They saw the bottle of extract on the counter that Mark had forgotten to hide. The police arrived shortly after the ambulance left. They didn't treat us like pranksters. They treated us like criminals. They read us our rights right there in the kitchen, surrounded by sprinkles and powdered sugar. The lead detective told us that because we knew she had a history of stealing food and we intentionally placed a dangerous substance in that food, it qualified as poisoning, with intent to cause bodily harm. The fact that it was recorded for social media only made it worse because it proved premeditation and a lack of remorse. Sarah was in the hospital for a week. Her throat was so swollen she had to be intubated. Her family came down from upstate, and they were livid. They hired a high-powered lawyer who is now suing both of us for every penny we have. And even pennies we don't have yet. My bank account is frozen. My credit is ruined. Mark is facing 3 to 5 years in prison because he was the one who actually prepared the donuts. I'm being charged as an accessory. I lost my job because the video Mark recorded somehow got leaked online, and my boss didn't want the company associated with the donut poisoners. I'm back living in my parents' basement, waiting for a trial date that feels like a death sentence. Every time I close my eyes, I see Sarah's blue face and hear that wheezing sound. I thought I was the good guy, because I wasn't the one who bought the extract, but I was the one who let it happen. I watched the thief, but I didn't watch my own soul. If this story touched your heart even a little, please subscribe to the channel. Your one subscription gives me the strength to keep sharing these stories. Like this video if you were on my side, or if you think I should have done more to stop Mark from the start. Subscribe for more stories like this where the consequences are real and the drama is high. Share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section. Was I just as guilty as Mark, or was I just a bystander caught in the crossfire? I'll see you all in the next story.